Let's see what Natasha Don's saying then ahead of the election on Sunday, and will it change Portugal's fortune significantly or not? I wonder if she'll go into that in this article that I'm putting onto the screen now, which features a photograph of Marcelo, the president of Portugal, who voted last Sunday, appealing to all citizens there to exercise their right to vote on March the 10th. Compare and contrast that. Apparently, turnouts are quite low in Portugal when it comes to elections, and 60% of people are a little bit untrusting of political processes. I don't know if I've put that in quite the right way, but you get the gist. There's a certain amount of cynicism, as well as a president who's urging people to exercise their democratic right to vote. Habitual abstention, here we go, compounded this year by high percentage of undecided is how Natasha Don starts this. A couple of days ago in the Portugal Resident, President Marcelo was among the 208,000 citizens who elected to vote early yesterday. That would have been on the 3rd, under a regime that allows people away from home to cast their votes without having to return. And he used the occasion to appeal to the country to respond to the legislative elections. That's what they're called here, isn't it? The legislative elections on Sunday, and reduce the habitual scourge of abstention. Habitual scourge of abstention. Nobody likes that at first thing in the morning, certainly not the president. And legislative elections, this is the elections of people who can make the law then, I suppose, in essence. Abstention levels are traditionally extremely elevated in Portuguese elections, as in no one votes, or very few people do, or they would like more people to. And this latest legislative battle is seen as pivotal. The rise of Chega is being seen as likely to change the political landscape, while the number of undecided voters, according to most opinion polls, that is, has actually been growing as the campaign progresses. What this says about the value of televised debates / street appearances, the party's messaging, etc., is worrying all those concerned who recognize this week as absolutely decisive. Yeah, I was wondering if that should have been divisive or decisive. It's decisive. With the percentage of undecided voters vacillating between 17 and 20%, the reality is that these floating voters could end up tipping the balance. There are floaters who might tip the balance, everybody. As of today, leader writers and political pundits are leaning more to a win by AD, the centre-right alliance, which will almost certainly need to be bolstered by an agreement with Chega. Now, they'll be very careful about what they'll be saying they'll be doing with Chega, right? And I think a lot of it is like, no, we won't work with those people. But when it comes down to getting a piece of the power and the levers of power, we'll see what happens there, won't we? Carlos Rodrigues, editorial director general of Correio da Manhã, suggests AD's campaign has been, up until now, much better organized than that of its main rival, the PS. A few unfortunate declarations by candidates have dented the desired effect, but then the PS bandwagon has equally been frustrated by citizens caught on camera making obscene gestures and hurling insults. Yes, I saw that. That was a politician, was it, from his balcony, and those gestures, honestly. And Zé Pavinha would have been proud of him. And the increasingly alarmist declarations of its leader, Pedro Nuno Santos, who talks of the right, lumping centre-right and right-wing parties PSD, CDS-PP, Iniciativa Liberal and Chega together as if they personified the four horsemen of the apocalypse. All in all, for the energy and effort put into this campaign, the situation hasn't changed, says Natasha. Everything is wide open, and the smaller parties are all hoping for enough votes to make their support to whoever wins crucial. And then there are the voices, and there are so many of them, says Natasha, who warn that whatever happens next Sunday, whichever combination of parties takes control of Portugal's immediate future, the solution could fall apart rapidly. Writing under the headline, Prognostics Only After March the 10th, Armando Esteves Pereira, deputy editorial director of the country's most widely read tabloid, stresses next Sunday, the party political system will suffer a seismic shock. Whoa, we just don't know the size, which will depend whether Chega receives a lot below the 20%, tipped in some polls, or if it gets close to that marker. So Chega support, it seems all important, the amount thereof, and whether people do decide to vote for Chega or make a last-minute plot twist, a last-minute polling plot twist or political plot twist. With so many undecided voters, it is a risk to make predictions before knowing the results. Well, that's how predictions work, actually, isn't it? because it's like a prediction before knowing the result. But anyway, the only certainty is that Andre Ventura's party, that is Shaker, will make gains which will complicate the scenarios for forming a government if neither the Democratic Alliance with Iniciativa Liberal or PS with the rest of the left muster an absolute majority in parliament. So I wonder, Andre Ventura is probably feeling quite powerful and pivotal at the moment, given that he can swing things with the way that the majority might work here in the Portuguese parliament. Last paragraph then from Natasha. Add to this the curveball that more than 60% of citizens in Portugal tend not to trust parliament. That's the figure, isn't it? And that's how she put it. 60% of citizens in Portugal tend not to trust parliament, a number above the European average, which is 56%. That is so dismal, isn't it? The European average for trust in Parliament is 56%. Talk about, the political stump is all about change, isn't it? Left, right, change. What do we want? Change. When do we want it now? And that against the backdrop, folks, of 56% trust in, or tending not to trust Parliament. There is a structural change required, isn't there, above or underpinning the party political system. But that's a little bit radical for me to say that, I guess, at this time in this particular week here in Portugal. According to a survey on people's political perceptions published by Pordata, see story to come. And that is, you can see that story already in the Portugal Resident about the amount of trust, according to Pordata. Every time I say Pordata, it's like a subjective judgment. Pordata is the stats about life here in Portugal, Pordata there, and you can find out more about that if you go to portugalresident.com and see Natasha Don's other story there, as well as this one, which I'll put the link to in the chat right now. So what are we saying over there in the comments in the chat? Have you sent me anything on 913-590-303? Let me just have a look then as we make our way towards 10 o'clock and the final moments of the Good Morning Portugal show this morning. Thanks to James, thanks to Astrid, and thanks to all of you for being here. Tomorrow we will have Cordelia Blake talking about how she talks to people who run business here in Portugal, and Fabrizio and maybe Ian Ali. If you know Ali Sheldrake, do send love to her. She's had a little bit of a tumble and can't join us tomorrow morning, but we will have a little look at the snapshot preview magazine that she sends me, but we'll have to do that alone. What's going on here in the chat then? Those Hawaiians, yeah, that's wonderful, that image there, James, that you've shared with us, as in Beach Party Films. What's that? Surf's Up? Oh, and a very quick good morning from Seattle. Good morning to you, Jeff and Helen over there. Good to hear from you. Goodness gracious, what time is it for you over there? And there was a little bit of talk, wasn't there, about the most amazing image that was sent in to us this morning, which was this one above. Let me just check with you by handy. This is your bathroom, and that is the tiled. It's not a mural exactly, is it? The tiled representation of the previous owners, which you've honoured and left above your jacuzzi bath there. Am I right in thinking that? That is joining our Hall of Fame of tasteful decor here in Portugal and real estate photography. Thank you very much for that.